Laura, good morning. Good morning. How are we doing?
Good morning, John. Thanks for taking my call. It's good to hear from you.
Thank you for calling in. How can I help?
Yeah, I'm hoping to just gain some insight and possible direction on how to navigate a marriage relationship with a partner who has ADHD.
Oh, I feel like you're typecasting me here, that I may or may not have that myself.
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky because it's all of the ADHD things that I love most about him, and that's why we fell in love. He just has so much enthusiasm and such a big heart, and he's so much fun. I got divorced from a previous marriage and have two kiddos that I have primary custody of, and he just jumped right in and no hesitation, just wrapped his arms right around them, and has just been such a good, fun dad for them. There's just so many things about the ADHD and just who he is as a person that I love. But now as time's gone on over the relationship, I didn't really understand ADHD and its full effect on adults and relationships. And we've kind of just been unknowingly playing into what I'm learning now as a pretty classic toxic relationship dance between a non-ADHD and an untreated ADHD partner.
Excellent. So explain some of the things you were learning. They're probably going to sound a lot like my home. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of that parent-child dynamic where I kind of just take on the majority of the load for our family, being the responsible one and the person that follows through and has that executive functioning. And I have been diagnosed with complex PTSD, which lends me towards being the more over-functioning, kind of controlling partner.
Okay.
And so it's been easy for us to kind of just get stuck in that dance where I'm trying to boss him around and remind him to do all of these kind of just basic adult things.
Right. Does this play a pretty significant put a pretty significant strain on your intimate life? Yes.
A huge strain on that for sure. It makes it really hard for me to feel like I'm in a partnership with him or that I'm like romantically attracted to him when I feel like he's just my third kid.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the challenges that folks in this type of relationship struggle with is to just put it out there. Nobody wants to be intimate with their mom, and nobody wants to be intimate with their kid. And the longer this goes, the more that gulf, those relationships get redefined. And did you struggle with this in your previous marriage?
No, my previous marriage was just it was an abusive situation. Okay. I had to just get out to protect myself and my kids. So it was definitely different.
So you ran, and I don't mean that negatively, but you ran into the arms of someone who was the exact opposite, who is almost has no filter on the relational engagement part of his brain, who is all in all the time, and more importantly, who let you have the driver's seat in this time, right? In this relationship, you got to drive, you get to be the boss, you get to be mom, and that sounds so fun for the screaming, fearful part of your relational brain that was in an abusive relationship, and now it's way too much, right? No fun.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just that single mom that was juggling all the plates by myself and was used to doing everything. And he just kind of slid in and was like, sweet, this is great and comfy and I'm doing everything.
Yes. So
and then a year in, I'm realizing, wait, I'm doing everything. And there's a perfectly capable adult right here who's not.
Yes,
you know?
yes. Okay, so how can I help specifically in your situation?
Yeah, I'm just hoping to get some tips and guidance on how we can best navigate it moving forward so we don't just get stuck in a toxic spiral where we're just struggling to get along with each other and struggling to remain attracted to each other and those kinds of things. What are some tips as far as that goes?
Oh, I love it. Okay, so the first thing I want you to do is this. And I've mentioned his book several times before. I've got it here. I'm going to hold it up. Man, I brought this today. This is just... couldn't be more extraordinary timing here. This is a book called Scattered by Gabor Mate, last name M-A-T-E, and it's a first-person narrative, a science book. It's the best book on ADHD, relationships, and being in a relationship with someone with ADHD I've ever come across in my life. It is a hard read, and I mean hard, not difficult, but hard emotionally. It's been hard for my wife to read. It was hard for me going through it. One day when my kids read it, they're going to have a hard time with it. And when I recommend it to people, it's hard. Here's why. ADD is not an illness in the medical sense, right? It is. It drives me crazy when it turns into a medical issue. And because we've developed some medication that helps it a little bit, We think it's a disease. We think it's a medical dysfunction, and it's not. ADHD, Mate says it's not a fixed inherited brain disorder. It's a set of physiological, biological consequences of an environment, of behavior that's allowed, and chaos, right? And so here's the thing. Is your husband on medication of any kind?
No, he's not doing anything to treat it right now.
Okay. That's fine. And I usually recommend medication as a second or third or fourth option. I don't mean to be graphic here, but medicine for ADHD is a stopgap. It can be like diarrhea medication can stop the explosions, right? It's not going to fix your core stomach issues. What medication can do is help somebody focus, but that focus is only good if they are using it to develop new relational skills. And really, at the end of the day, a person with ADHD struggles with this idea of impulse control. It's grown people acting like children because they never developed. It's a developmental disorder, right? It's literally disordered thoughts. For folks who are listening to this, think of it this way. Dr. Mate gives this great example. All the thoughts are traveling down a highway, and there's a police officer there who is stopping traffic coming this way, and he's waving it on just like a traffic stop. For somebody with an ADHD mind, it's not that their thoughts are out of control. It's just that the policeman is just sitting down, letting traffic go. So they all get in the same place at the same time, which, ADHD medication is really a stimulant. They fire your brain up, and it helps reorder some things. And it doesn't sound like somebody with ADHD would need a stimulant, but it helps reorder. It helps get that policeman back where they need to be, and they are directing traffic in the right way. And so as we talked about, man, no mom wants to hook up with their son. No son wants to hook up with their mom, right? This change does not start. Well, it starts with you some, but this change really starts with your husband. Your husband has to get exhausted with being exhausted. Now, this is me. This is the pot talking to the kettle on this one, okay? There had to be a time in my life when I just had to say enough is enough is enough. ADHD is a context, not an excuse. What does that mean? That means that people with ADHD often struggle with magical time. Time doesn't exist. Or I have to be at work at 10 minutes. It's a 30-minute drive, and I'm hopping into the shower at 9:55. The fact that it's not 10 yet, I got plenty of time. The people who work with me here on this show, they'll know. Does that sound like something at your house?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So, hey, you know what? It's fine if the kids just stay up till midnight tonight to watch this movie, and Twinkies have some nutritional value. We're going to be fine, Mom. We're going to be fine. And it will all work out tomorrow. And there is this magical, consequence-free environment that folks live in. Here's the deal. That's not reality, and that's not true. And a person with ADHD has the ability to know that that's not true. What they have to do is go as far as they can upstream and create systems and context and behavior change in themselves that starts with this idea that he is worth being loved. Most people with ADHD come from places of either chaotic environments or they come from environments where people withheld. There was neglect. There were people that didn't teach them ways to live and love. Sometimes it's when parents take care of all of their stuff for their kids. Sometimes it's when parents take care of none of their stuff for their kids, and kids are constantly living in chaotic environments. But he's got to learn to love himself. And when he learns to love himself, then he learns that he is worth parenting himself. And that begins with cleaning up external chaos, cleaning the environments, being on time, getting sleep, good nutrition. But all that stuff, you don't eat right if you don't think you're worth it. You don't sleep right if I'm just another guy, right? And that's when you come in. It starts with you sitting down, or your part of this starts with you sitting down with him and saying, I'm done being your mom. I'm your wife. I'm in love with you. Romantically, I'm not cleaning up after you. I'm not getting you out of bed anymore. And if you get fired and you can't hold a job, I'm going to have to protect my kids from a bad example. And I'm going to have to implement some measures, and that may be us not being together. That may be us having to separate for a time until you are taking care of yourself, but I can't have my kids picking up and learning more chaos because that's how ADHD gets passed along. It's not passed on genetically, it's passed on environmentally. There is a genetic component, but does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What do you say is the best way to kind of help him get? Because I think it really is comorbid, the ADHD, with kind of a feeling of learned helplessness and depression. Like no matter how hard he tries, he just keeps failing. And so he's really struggling to get help.
Yeah, it plays into itself, right? So then you fail at a bunch of stuff. You get fired from a job because you don't show up on time. And on the way home, you stop at 4 different fast food restaurants because you don't care about your nutrition. And then you have 8 Diet Cokes before you go to bed, which means you don't sleep, which means the whole cycle starts over again, right?
Yeah,
and then you spin out. And the only way an ADHD person, and I'm speaking generally here, there's going to be somebody out there with it going, that's not my case. Well, congratulations. What most people, the way you turn the alarms off is through hugs, through connection, through excitement and novelty, right? And so there are probably some pretty wild romantic nights y'all have had. Am I fair?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's incredible. And it actually makes up for a lot of the times when the dishes aren't done, right? And so they can be the best lovers and the best friends. And God almighty, they are a beating to live with. And again, this is the pot talking to the kettle here. So what your husband needs to do is this. Y'all need to, number one, have you sat down and had a real hard conversation with him yet?
Oh, yeah. We've had kind of gentle nudges over the last year of me being like, hey, this is hard for me to live with. Why don't you go get some treatment, you know? And just this last week, it really just like came crashing down like a bunch of bricks. And I was like, I cannot live with this long term or I'm going to go crazy. I'm already getting depressed and I need you to go get help. I love you. I love you for who you are. But in like a romantic relationship, I need this to be a partnership and it can't be so unequal all the time. And I need you to go get help or I can't do this anymore. And
so what I want to challenge you to do is y'all go get help.
Yeah.
Because ADHD is healed through connection. It's healed through other people and it's healed through lessening the chaos. And that's not something that people can do by themselves. And I know that's hard on you because the whole thing you want is him just to act like a grown-up. And he needs to act like a grown-up. And I'm living proof you can act like a grown-up. I've got my days. Oh, God almighty, I've got my days, right? I struggle with that. But you can act like a grown-up. And you can hold a job. And you can decide I'm going to eat right and sleep right so that the next morning I wake up refreshed and I can be in control of my executive functioning. And I can, over time, develop from a child to an adult. I can do all those things. They take practice and they take connection. And so a couple of things like we talked about throughout this call, I just want to wrap this up and really put a bow on this. I want you and your husband to get together and read this book, Scattered Together by Dr. Mate. I want you to have a off-site. I want you to take him out of your house. I want y'all to go take him out of your house. Take him out of y'all's house. I want you to go to lunch, go to breakfast. I want you to tell him you're not doing well. And this is not a blow-up time. This is a quiet time. This isn't in the heat of some exchange or yet another time he didn't pick his socks up or whatever. And I want you to tell him that you love him, that he is worth being loved, he is worth being connected to, and that he does not have the skills to be connected, and that you want to go with him to a marriage counselor who specializes in ADHD, and there are a bunch of them. And I want you to walk with him through this journey for as long as you can. It may be that medication's necessary. If he's 25, 35, 45, and he's never wrestled with this, sometimes medication can really help. I've had a couple of buddies of mine, who in their 40s and 50s took medication for the first time, and they said it was like being in a crowded stadium, and someone just turned the noise down, and they didn't know it. One of them wept as he told me about it. He said, "I've never could have imagined it." And by having the volume of the stadium turned down, then he can finally listen to his wife and be in connection with her. And that's the medication can do. It's not a long-term solution. It's not going to fix you, but it may give you some space to go learn some new skills, or your husband to go learn some new skills. Counseling for disconnection, learn how to be a relationship, nutrition, exercise, sleep, getting out into nature, playing, just enjoying life, right? But learning how to do it in the right times. All of these are fixes. All of these are ways to help I don't want to use the word fix. I'm going to back up. All of these are ways to help somebody with ADHD develop into an adult mind, a responsible mind. It is a process. It's an adventure, and it's a journey. But if you hear nothing else, ADHD is not a disease, does not have to be the rest of your life. And you can fix it. You can't, I said fix again. People, I'm trying not to say fix. We're not machines. You can develop and grow up. I'm testament here. I'm proof of it. I held a day job and I showed up to work on time. I even showed up early today with my work prepared, and you can too.